Okay, I mentioned how this thing is not really set up right for a clamshell operation. I was going to show you this tagline reel. You can see those two barrels there. They have coil springs inside of them and oil, and then if you look back behind the reel, you can see a couple of gears in there that let me try and zoom in a little bit here. Right there, you can see there's a couple of gears in there that drive those springs, drive that reel. But I'll show you what I was talking about with this clamshell. This clamshell bucket is what you call a rehandler or a smooth jaw, because it does not have teeth. It just has flat metal cutting edges. And this is a 3-yard bucket. So this bucket weighs about 7,000 pounds empty, and it weighs about 16,000 pounds when it's full. It's about 10 feet tall to the top of that bucket right there. And it's got 6 foot wide jaws on it, or the bucket is 6 foot wide. And as it's open like this, the distance from cutting edge to cutting edge is about 9 feet when it's open. So when you're doing clamshell work, you are supposed to derate to 80% of whatever your chart capacity is. The clamshell, when you are the boom, I should say, when you are running clamshell, should be as short as you can possibly make it and still get the kind of performance you want. As I said, I have 141 feet of boom in here, and it's way too much. I've got the boom tip, which is 20 feet. I've got a 30-foot section, a 30-foot section, a 20-foot section, a 20-foot section, and then the boom base, which is also 20 feet. And when you're operating a clamshell, you need to have your boom at about a 40-degree angle. And the 40-degree angle gives you the best amount of reach and the best amount of capacity. And so what you need to do, of course, this has 1-inch rope, and it's a rotation resistant rope, and so it has a capacity of 19,800 pounds on each rope. And so what you need to do is you look in your load chart at how you want to configure this boom to get the most reach at 40 degrees and be able to handle 19,800 pounds. Now, this clamshell will only weigh 16,000, which is about 80,000 or 80% of a 20,000 pound capacity, and so that's just right. That's the right size of a bucket for this machine. They're appropriately sized. But I have way too much boom in there. I need to take probably 50 or 60 feet of boom out of there and run about 85 to 90 feet of boom. Actually, probably 80 to 85 feet of boom would be the correct amount of boom. And you're running a 40-degree angle, and you find that about 75, 80 feet is where you're going to be operating at a full capacity with a 80% load, a 16,000 pound load, and that would be just about right for this thing. But like I said, the job that I'm doing here, I'm constantly picking up and dropping this bucket and doing other things. I'm not out here dredging mud. I haven't been doing that. I've been handling this material and moving it up there to the structure where they're doing backfill in areas that you can't get any other equipment in there. Some of them I even swing a skid steer up there so that they've got a piece of equipment to handle material. But so you have your ropes coming off of your shiv. You want them to come off at about the same distance apart as what this distance is here on your top bracket. And that's about what I've got right there. I could probably go one more shiv apart and that would be about it. And but I've got this thing rigged right now. I've got the boom set up for as much reach as I can get. And what I do when I go to drop this is I disconnect that becket right there, and I pin that becket back to the boom on the boom base. I disconnect the tag line, I pin it back to the boom base, and then I unhook from this ring here. And that's why I have these have the ring on here and have the chain on here. Otherwise you would not have any of this. You would have your beckets clipped directly to one to the bucket and one to the rope, and you wouldn't have your ball on here or anything. And in your operator manual, it will tell you how to rig up for clamshell operations. They recommend that you remove all the rope and replace the rope on your drums with rope that's dedicated for clamshell, and the rope that is appropriate length for the amount of boom that you have and the amount of depth that you're digging. And that way you're going to tear up your ropes, and that way you're not tearing up a full 600 foot of rope, and just when you only needed 200 feet on there. The other thing I wanted to get into is the difference in the machines. This machine is not a friction machine, it is a hydraulic. It's 100% hydraulic. It does not have the capability to do free fall. So it's what we call a construction crane. And so when I am running the clamshell up and down, I actually have to use hydraulic power to power the clamshell up and power it down. And that's really not the way you want to do these. You want to do free fall on the way down. You want to do power on the way up and free fall on the way down, but this crane won't do free fall. And as you may or may not know, when you are in construction and you have to pick up a man basket, an occupied man basket, you cannot do that with a crane that has the ability to do free fall. If your crane has the ability to be switched into free fall mode, you cannot pick up a man basket with that. And so that's why they call this type of crane a construction crane, because it cannot do free fall. Back in the old days, the cranes were actually built with gear drive. They had, the engine drove a gearbox, and they had chains and drive shafts and all kinds of things like that. That is how the machine was operated. This machine is 100% hydraulic. It does not have any gearboxing in it at all. Well, I can't get that sun out of the picture here. And some of your other cranes have a switch in the cab where you can switch it into free fall mode, where you have brake pedals on the floor, and you will have the ability to switch it between hydraulic mode and free fall mode. You cannot pick up a man basket if you've got a crane that's set up like that. A lot of people refer to those as friction rigs. They're not an old school friction rig, they're still a hydraulic rig, but they have the ability to go into a friction mode. So this right here is where the switching would be to switch it into free fall, whichever winch you wanted to put in free fall mode, and then if you wanted to couple winches together, I think that's where that switch is supposed to be for coupling together. Yeah, this is the free fall switch right here. But this crane is not equipped. It does not have brakes. These pedals are actually for operating your tracks, and so no way to put it in free fall mode. So that's why I've got it rigged the way it is, and why I say that this thing is not really correct for operating a clamshell. You can do it, but it would be slow. It would be really slow, and it does tend to overheat the hydraulics because you're running the hydraulic power up and down, and it does tend to get kind of hot. So you got to really go slow with it.